The silent killer by the beach, Rip Current. What do you know about the factors that endanger human life and sea water? Typhoons and hurricanes? Heavy rains and hurricanes? Have you heard of rip currents? According to statistics, rip currents have become another marine disaster that has caused harm to people's coastal tourism after storm surges and waves. About 90% of seaside drowning is caused by rip currents. Approximately 150 people drown in the United States every year due to rip currents. This is even worse in Florida, because Florida's geographic location is surrounded by the sea on three sides and the waterfront is very long. Coastal currents accounted for the largest number of deaths in the United States, and the number of deaths caused by rip currents even exceeded the combined fatalities caused by storms, hurricanes and tornadoes. Where do offshore accidents occur frequently in the United States? The United States faces the Atlantic Ocean to the east, the Pacific Ocean to the west, and the Gulf of Mexico to the south. Too much beauty, too much excitement, and too much joy at the same time, which means that rip currents are everywhere all the time. According to incomplete statistics, in the United States, lifeguards rescue tens of thousands of people from rip currents every year, but more than 100 people still die every year. According to statistics from the U.S. National Atmospheric and Oceanic Administration, NOAA, and the Australian Life Saving Organization, many of the people with the highest rate of offshore drowning accidents are young men, because they are overconfident and think they can detect rip currents, and often go to swim at beaches without lifeguards. What is a rip current? It is a strong current that rushes from the shore to the sea, formed by the combined activity of nearshore waves and the topography. It is easy for people to be swept from the beach to the sea suddenly, which is very harmful to seaside tourists. The threat is even greater. To put it simply, a rip current is the flow of water that pulls people or things off the shore. A rip current not only means to pull people and things away quickly and vigorously, but also describes the shape of long tiers in the current. The official definition by the NOAA is, rip currents are strong, narrow, sea-facing currents that extend from near the coastline to outside of the surfing area. They can appear on almost any beach with waves, like a river of the ocean. It can pull sand, marine life, and other nearshore objects, including people. The popular explanation is, when the waves hit the coast, the waves break up when they encounter obstacles from the land, and a large amount of sea water must find a way back into the sea. However, due to being pushed by subsequent waves, the seawater will initially move in a direction parallel to the beach. Finally, the seawater converges into one or several powerful currents and retreats back into the sea. This process cyclically occurs to form rip currents. With waves on both sides, it is the wave of water in the middle without traces is the most common description of rip currents from various media. It is indeed the most common, known as the channel-type rip current, which is a depth-controlled rip current. A kind of shore current. The characteristics of this category of rip currents are determined by the topography of the seafloor, sandbanks, nearshore submarine canyons, ridges, coral reefs, etc. The channel-type rip current is the easiest to distinguish with the naked eye, and because it often stays in the same location for days, weeks, or even months, you can identify it only by looking at the obvious patterns of scallops washed out by the current on the beach. There is also a focused type of water depth-controlled rip current, which occurs at a relatively fixed location, and the form is manifested as turbulent waves and sediments gathering in the offshore area. Rip currents here often appear on flat beaches without obvious topographical features. The characteristics of the second type of rip currents are determined by the surrounding structures, or man-made structures such as wharves, or natural geological structures such as rocks and reefs, which are usually formed by the interaction of the surrounding waters of these structures. This type of rip currents can be subdivided into shadow and deflection, but they sometimes appear at the same time. The characteristics of the third category of rip currents are determined by hydrodynamic forces, that is, the interaction of waves and currents. It is almost impossible to predict where and when this type of rip current will occur, and it is only possible to assess the possibility of occurrence at a specific beach. The biggest difference from the other two types of rip currents is that they are instantaneous, lasting for a few minutes, but they are powerful. Rip currents are very calm on the surface of the sea, and it is difficult for people to find it without having experience in identifying rip currents. Therefore, rip currents usually appear suddenly without people being prepared, and they can also occur under any weather conditions. The duration ranges from a few minutes to several weeks, and it is difficult to predict rip currents before they occur. The obvious sign is that unlike the huge waves generated during a typhoon, rip currents are not noticeable until people are caught in it. The emergence of rip currents is sometimes sudden, which can easily cause panic to swimmers who encounter rip currents and exacerbate the consequences of offshore drowning accidents. The flow velocity of an rip current is usually 0.3 to 1 meter per second, and the fastest can reach 3 meters per second. The longitudinal length can extend from more than 60 meters to more than 700 meters. The flow direction is almost perpendicular to the shoreline, but the width is generally not more than 9 meters. Rip currents are the most deadly to people playing around on the seashore. They will quickly take people off the coast in a short time and continually pull people out to the sea. It can quickly drag strong swimmers into deep water, causing them to drown. If you unfortunately find yourself in a rip current, don't think that you can swim back to the shore using your strength, because you are not saving yourself but committing suicide. Your physical strength will not help you fight a rip current head-on. Once you resist desperately, you will eventually drown and die due to exhaustion by overexerting your body. The most sensible way is to drift out of the rip current in the direction of the coast on both sides, and then swim back to the shore. Of course, if you can't escape from the clutches of the rip current no matter how much you swim, then follow the current to float and wave your hand to the shore for help. First of all, we should have a sense of self-preservation. When arriving at the beach, we should first look for warning signs. If you are not good at swimming or do not have a lifeguard on duty, it is best not to swim in the water. Rip currents may occur in any situation, but through identifying warning signs, risks can be effectively estimated. Some warning signs use the following international marking system. 2 red flags, the beach is closed and swimming is prohibited. 1 red flag, the wind is high and the waves are high, and all swimmers are not recommended to enter the water. Yellow flag, gentle waves or currents, those who swim poorly are not recommended to enter the water. Red and white checkered flag, emergency retreat. How to judge offshore currents. 1. Rip currents are usually easier to judge from the height of the shore. Most of them are relatively calm waters with white foam or muddy sand floating off the shore and flowing to deep water, mainly strips of white wave strips parallel to the shoreline. Intermittent calm waters. If you see such a phenomenon, you must be careful. 2. Rip currents are more likely to occur during low tide, big waves, and the summer. Make sure to check the local ebb time before going to the beach. Be vigilant. Rip currents may still occur in sunny and calm weather. 3. The areas near shoals, sand troughs, capes, reefs, or man-made structures are also areas with high occurrence of rip currents. Rip currents are more likely to occur at low tide. Shorelines or structures protruding to the sea such as seawalls and reefs are also areas with high occurrences of rip currents. 4. When going to the beach, first communicate with the lifeguard to understand the sea conditions, and look for the rip current warning signs. Try to swim or surf within the sight of the lifeguard. 5. Make sure you are good at swimming and don't go to the sea alone. How to deal with rip currents. To deal with rip currents, we must first learn to distinguish rip currents. The seabed where rip currents appear is lower than the 2 sides. The white waves on the surface of the sea rush to the shore, like rising tides, but the water below the sea flows towards the middle of the sea, like ebb tides. Since rip currents are deeper currents, most of them are darker in color. Some rip currents seem to have almost no waves on the surface. Compared with the surrounding white waves and swells, they are relatively quiet. This can easily fool swimmers into thinking that the water is suitable for swimming. Rip currents can suddenly appear next to you without warning, so if you encounter a rip current that takes you to the depths of the ocean, how can you save yourself? When you realize that you are in a rip current, you must remain calm. The rip current will only take people off the coast and will not pull people to the bottom of the sea. Panic will consume your energy and drain your physical strength. Whether it is waiting for rescue or self-help, composure is the most important thing. Adjust your breathing, take in enough air, and your body will float. Relax your body, let yourself drift with the current, and don't struggle against the power of rip currents. When encountering a strong rip current, do not confront it or try to swim back to the shore. You should remain calm. After you adjust, if there are lifeguards on the shore, please call for help and wave your hands. They will come to rescue you. This is the best way, because lifeguards are generally equipped with professional tools, and if they intervene, you will be safe. If you have not received rescue, you must follow the flow, and follow the direction of the rip current, drift along the direction parallel to the coast, escape from the current and then swim back to the shore. It is worth noting that when many people are drowning, they do not yell or panic for help as they do in movies and TV, and more often they are silent. Because drowning people must be able to breathe before they can speak. Many times they will naturally stretch their hands forward, keep their bodies upright, let their heads fall back, and their mouths will surface. They will ignore the hair in front of them, and their eyes will be dull. If you find that people around you, especially children, suddenly become quiet in the water, raise their heads but their eyes are dizzy, you should come forward and ask them if they are okay. If they do not answer, they may have experienced drowning and need to be in a safe condition as soon as possible. Save them from the water. But if it is too far from the shore, and the lifeguard did not answer your call for help, or there is no lifeguard on this beach, what should you do? You can only swim on your own, but even if you swim on your own, there are tricks to swim in the direction of the top current to the shore. There is a high probability that you will be exhausted before you swim, or will be dragged further out to sea. At this time, you should not swim with the top of the flow to the shore, but should be perpendicular to the direction of the flow and swim along the shore. Rip currents have a width, which can range from a few meters to hundreds of meters depending on the situation. As long as you swim out of the range of rip currents, you can swim back to the beach. Or you can follow the wave directly, wait until you reach the point where the rip current ends, and then swim along the shore for a while, then swim back towards the shore. Thanks for watching, please support by subscribe it, we have more to come, have a nice day.